jacket part 2. We added 1/2 inch to the side seam, so you've added a total of 2 inches of circumference or more depending on your choices. But I need to make my sleeve match my armhole again. So I need to offset this line 1/2 inch up here. I can offset it 3 inches, or I can offset it 0 down at the bottom. You get to choose. This one, I recommend reading the instructions very carefully because it's a little bit pickier than some of the commands. Okay, so we're creating a line. Use the down arrow, offset uneven. Select a point to offset uneven from. So I'm going to choose that point and enter 0.5 to match what I've already done on the side seam. Then the other point is the other end of the line, and I can choose 0. I can leave it at 1/2. I can add more. I'm going to put in 0.125 and then say OK. Now, in order to get this to stay here, I now have to choose Apply and then say OK. So now it's a real line, and we can choose the next line and put in 0.5 and say OK. And the other end of the line, same as whatever you did before, 0.125 is what I did, and say OK. Then make sure you say Apply and OK again so that it stays, otherwise it will disappear. OK. Then modify line swap. And I could have chosen the option of I can't talk and swap at the same time. I could have come over here and chosen, when I did create offset uneven, I chose to add the line. I could have chosen replace, and then I wouldn't have to delete or swap. But I like you to see what I'm doing. So as long as you can keep track of what you're doing, you can select replace instead. But sometimes I like to see what I did and leave the lines on until I get all finished so that I know I've done all the things that I plan to do. But you're young and you have fantastic memories. Just keep track of it or it won't sew together properly. Okay, right here, I don't really want that to hug the body. I maybe could leave it on the side. Maybe I do want it to hug the body. But this line right here in front is awkward. And I would rather add a little bit of extra flair to it. So to do that, I'm going to create a 2-point line, and I'm just going to join this line and bring this line out. And as I zoom in, I can see where it's on top. I don't want to make it any smaller, but now I've got this line and I can swap that and extend it out. But I want a copy of that over here, and I want it to be the same angle as this one. So I'm going to say OK, and that one I didn't have to say Apply. I don't know why you have to on the other one, but you do. So since I want the same line, I'm going to create mirror, and I want to mirror this line. I don't have a line in the middle to mirror around, so I'm going to mirror around a straight line. And when I did that, the line ended up over here. And so I'm going to copy that and put it on this piece. Create line, copy, because the important thing to me was to get the correct angle. So I'm going to copy this one, And I'm going to put it on this piece and say OK, and now I've got the line, and usually I say cancel, but this time I want it to end up right on the line so I can swap it. And it looks like I didn't quite get it. So I'm going to move the line, modify line, move, and it is possible to come down here at the bottom. If you look at the bottom of the screen where it says precision, I usually hate precision, but sometimes it can be helpful. I still don't think I got that as well as I want to, so precision isn't being my friend. Okay. Zooming all the way in. Oh, look at how far off that was. So I'll just set it down on top. Okay. So you know the drill. Split and swap. Modify line, split. Zoom in. Split the solid line where the line ends. You can do them both at the same time. Say OK. Modify line, swap. Choose a dotted line, trade it for the solid line. Same, OK, and then delete. So now with this line, we're not, if you have a bit of a mush ball in front, that's going to fit better. If you are nice and perfectly flat and well toned, you might want to show off your shape exactly. So that's up to you, but that's the choice I made. But you don't want it to be an abrupt change, so at least put in a curve if you don't straighten out that line. Delete line, this one. Okay. Wow, how am I going to decide that? What would happen if I put a straight line there? Create 2-point line, zooming in, how straight is that line? It's going to be a little weird to try and line up and do the hem. And if I come straight across from this and put in another line, maybe I don't have to do all of the flipping. Maybe that's going to be just as easy. Modify line, split. It depends on how steady-handed you are and whether or not you can tell if you're lined up on the line. If it's less than a 1/16 of an inch, you can usually get away with it. But if it's a lot and it makes a difference in the way it looks, in the long run, you're not going to want to put something into production that looks messy, that is harder for the sewers to sew. Delete the line. I have to choose that in order for it to know that's what I mean. Okay, so I need to merge. Modify line, combine. And if I'm going clockwise, it's opposite, depending on the side of the piece. These I will eventually need to merge, but I'm not sure if I need them yet or not. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is clean up the hem. You have already changed your sleeve, and I've got the fitted one, but if you want gathers in it, then now would be when you would add. and you spread it open with the slash and spread under advanced fullness, and you could do parallel or variable or tapered, any of those. If you do it that way, if you end up with I want 2-point curves. If you end up with your curves kind of apart like this, then you're not going to want to come along with a straight line. You might even want to come along and raise it a little bit depending on the look you want. Or maybe you'll just make a small blend right there, but it isn't going to be a straight line. It's going to be a smooth curve there. Okay. So now we need to do the hem. And if you want to, you can lengthen it now. Just lengthen them all the same amount. I'm going to just leave it that length. Modify, set, rotate. I want to start at the other end. The one that's not moving is first. Cancel. It's a lot easier to put those together to smooth the hem if they both end up straight. Another way to do this and not have to say cancel is to switch to value. Well, that's not going to be good. Do I have that on the other side too? Okay, I guess they'll line up and we'll fix it when we're changing the shape of the curve. Modify, set, rotate. Same. But if it's on value, you can type in 0 and say OK, and it does the same thing. So 0 or cancel. So nice smooth curve. I've got right angles at the beginning and the end. And I may or may not want to do it all in one shot. Try it. I want to keep the right angle for a while. I think that's going to work out really nicely. So I'm going to copy that line that's attached to this front piece. No, it's attached to the back piece on each of the other pieces. Create line copy. Touch when it's the right color and then slide. So that's the line we're copying. And the pieces to receive the line are all of them. And say OK. One copy each. And cancel. Say OK. And they each have one copy. So that's handy. I think usually I make you sit through copying them all, but you only need to do them one at a time. So you'd split the line and swap. So I'm going to put them back, modify, realign piece. So we're just realigning the pieces and the grain line, oh, for pity's sake. Okay. So you can swap the sleeve, you've got your back, you can fix the hems. And delete your lines. Okay, so like the blouse on your jacket, you're going to want to put in an extension for your buttons. So 5/8 is standard, but maybe you've got wider buttons, so you could offset that more. This is still your center front, but I'm going to create a line and offset it even and come out 5/8. So 0.625. Say OK. And then I'm going to swap those two so I can put my buttons down that line again. Modify line swap. Don't forget that that's your center line and that's where your buttons will go. So what I want to do now is your lapel. And you want to choose a break point. You can have your break point high, you can have it low. It's usually you can tell what decade it is by what level the lapels break at. So I want to create a line that starts where I want my break point to be. And maybe I'll create a 2-point line, and we're going to start down where you want it on the center front, and then we're going to use it like a ruler so that we can come over and have it touch the edge of the neckline right here. So depending on how low you start, you want that to join the neckline. If I started here, then I would want it to join the neckline where it very first touches. And then this part of the line would get erased because you want to retain the shape of your neck. So this line, when I finished it, either one, modify clip, I want to keep this line until it touches this line, or I want to keep this line until it touches this line until it touches, and apparently it's not actually touching that line, so I'm going to rotate it. Modify line, rotate this line around. And bump to line. And bump to that point. So I don't like where it chose to bump to, so I'd rather do it myself. Do you think I can get it this time? Apparently I can't say OK over here in the box. It's safer to say OK out in the water. And I'd like it if they were more consistent with their commands too, but such is life. Okay, clip. This line. Select the line to clip on the side to keep. There, okay. So if I were going with this line, I'd blend it shorter because that's where it's running into the corner. And it might be helpful to you to get out the book and look at it and follow the instructions in your original pattern making book, not a digital patterning book. I haven't found a digital patterning book that always complies with good pattern making practices. So you can use your beginning or intermediate pattern making books. I'm also going to delete this one. So at this point, I want to think about where I want my lapel to be and where I want my collar to come in. So I'm going to design my lapel right now, and I'm going to create it with some 2-point curves. You can use straight lines. This is entirely a design choice, but you're going to have a lapel that comes up somewhere in this neighborhood. And I'm going to make it wide so it's easier for you to see, but you don't have to have it be that wide. And maybe that's what I want it to look like. And then I'm going to join that line and come down and join this line so that they're connected. And then I'll choose a shape. So that's the shape I'm going to make my lapel be. And while I'm here, I'm also going to choose the shape for where my collar comes in that wraps around from the back and where they join. So you might want to look at design lines to make this kind of a choice, but this is what it looks like. I'm still going to continue with my curves. I want my collar and my lapel to sew together this far, and then I'm going to let my collar come out here, and then my collar is going to blend in back up in here, but I can decide the shape. I can make it curvy or straight or even curve backwards. That one's kind of fun. So I'm going to leave that line attached to this so that when it's time for me to make my collar, I know how that collar shape is going to join in with my lapel. But we'll do collars on a different day. I will just leave them all attached. So in order to get my lapel pattern piece, my front isn't going to just stay like this anymore, and it's important to have the extension on it already so that your buttons are going to be down here. So I'm going to mirror the lapel, but I'm not going to mirror it on the center front line or the front edge. I'm going to mirror it on this straight line that I created right here, because that's the fold line. You're going to mirror the lapel on the fold line of the lapel. So create line mirror, not piece mirror, but line mirror. Select the line to mirror. I want to get both of those lines. Say OK. The line to mirror around is that one. So my new shape, and you can either have that be an abrupt ending, or if you don't want that to be abrupt, you could put in another 2-point curve. And blend that. I don't think I'm going to, but you could. It's a design choice. So I need to trace off my front, and I'm going to leave this one as my map. So my jacket, this one I'm going to save it as the jacket first. So File, Save As, the lapel. So I'm going to save this one as my map. Yes, I never did say that right. Yes to all. So this one has now been saved as the map. The original is still the way it was. If I want to go back and start a new one, my basic jacket that I've labeled as number 3 is a basic that I can go back to that has a certain amount of fullness added. And I've separately saved this as a map, and now I'm going to create piece trace my front jacket. So I'm going to have this line. I kind of want to trace that one, but I need to think that through. Yeah, that looks right. So I also got my hem at the same time. So that's my jacket shape. That's my front. So that's my center front princess jacket. And I'm probably going to want to blend that a little smoother. You know, just right there, move one point, but okay, so that's a jacket piece. And this is one of those things where you're going to add to the outer edge for that fold under. And, well, you're going to leave this one alone. It's going to be the under piece, and the facing is going to fold and be the outer piece. So if you imagine the part that we just traced off as a wool front and the lapel as a velvet decorative piece that sits on top, then that would be, I need to create some new lines for my front facing. So I'm going to perpendicular on line, select a point of intersection. I'm going to say distance from point, and I'm going to move that out 2 inches. Say okay. So I've got my beginning guideline 2 inches away, and the bottom one I'm going to come out 2.5, but it's going to be negative because it's counterclockwise. Not negative 25, negative 2.5. Yeah. Okay. So that's going to be right here. So I don't want it to go all the way over into that seam. And now I can connect those two guidelines with a 2-point curve. So I'm going to join the bottom end of that one and just blend that neatly. Sometimes on patterns you get from companies, they have an actual angle there, and those don't run through the serger as well, so you want to give the sewers a smooth curve. So now I'm going to trace off my front facing. Create piece trace. And I still want that same line. And you noticed how I was careful about the part of the line I chose, which is why I was able to get the piece without splitting it. So that is my jacket facing, and it's the front. It already says center front, so I'm going to put facing on it. Okay. So if I've got my front jacket, and this is a wool piece, and this is the velvet piece that I'm sewing on top, they'll sit together like this, and I'll just sew up and around. I'll end up including the collar later, but And I'm doing a simplified version. You can do more difficult versions in the book, and you're welcome to do that, but some of you are already miserable. But you want the one that's sitting on top to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to take my velvet one that ends up on the outside. It's weird. The facing is on the inside down here, but this folds on this line and ends up on the outside. So in order to make that work the way I want it to, I'm going to combine some lines. Modify lines, combine clockwise and in order. I'm going to get all three of those and all three of these. This one I might need to split again before I give it seam allowance. But what's going to happen is that we're pivoting this line out and this line out separately, but only on this piece. So I have it split here, and we're going to use create offset uneven again. And I find offset uneven frustrating. I could just copy the line and rotate it out if I wanted to, but we'll try this. So the point we're rotating uneven from is here, and that one is going to be 0, and I'll say OK. And the other end, I'm going to come out 0.25, and this has a lot to do with what type of fabric you're using. I'm okay with that with velvet or wool. If it's a lighter weight fabric, you might not want to bring it out that far. Okay, so this one we're going to go with 0 again. Oh, that's right. Apply and OK. Now I can move on. I forget that every time. And this end is 0.25. Say OK. And when I swap these, I'd rather just bring them out and let them cross over so I know what I'm going to get. So modify, adjust, modify line, adjust. I didn't accept it and say OK. That is so annoying. Okay, well, you'll learn from this and not do what I did. Create, offset, uneven. Choose the line. Select the point to go uneven from. OK. The other end. 0.25. Say OK. Then apply and OK. And now it's permanent. So I can go back to modify line, adjust again. Pull those out. And then I'm going to clip them. Modify line, clip this line until it touches this one, and this line until it touches that one. And now when I come in and swap, modify line, swap, clockwise and in order, I'm going with the new ones and getting rid of the old ones. And I'm going to leave those there so I can see them. Okay, so now when that sews together, I will have to carefully ease in that much extra along here, which is why people usually like using wool for jackets. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that in your ear. Wool is a lot more forgiving. Alright, and then the typical right here, this is going to get cut down that 1/8 of an inch so that it stretches this up here and it doesn't bubble under the body. So we'll have a line underneath there that rotates around too. Create new line, offset uneven. That end is 0. This end is going to be 0.125, but I want it to be negative. And say OK. But I need to say apply and OK. And then I'm going to wait to swap that one. I want to make my lining piece. We're just keeping this a simple lined jacket. Alright, I think that's enough for this video. We want to add all the pieces, but I should swap these first. Modify line, swap, and internal line, and clockwise in an order for those two. Oh, I can't do that. Have to split. It gets so splitting and clipping and swapping are very mundane. And it cut off that weird little thing, and we didn't have to fix it. Those I think I'm going to go ahead and delete. No. Uh-oh. I made a mess. Well, you know how to fix that. It's simple. We have talked about it before, but we always forget. So cancel. I want this line to come back here where it belongs. Doesn't it belong over there? I think it does. Anyway, I'm going to modify line combine this line and this line because I want to delete this point. And I am not going to be able to, well, maybe I will. Delete point, and it's gone. So now my jacket's gone back to where it belongs. And if I combine those into one line, modify line, combine clockwise in an order, I have a little corner right there. So if I go up to edit point and choose the point right here, it has an N point on it, and I want to change that to an S point. You may not remember that, so you just click on the little dots. Oh, I need to choose the S point. So instead of non-smoothing, we have a smoothing point, and say OK and apply, and now it's all pretty. That one you might want to rewatch. Edit point. Choose the point. Come down to attributes, click on the little dot box, and choose smoothing. And if you've got one with the opposite problem, you can put a corner on it. Things like that happen near collars often. Yeah, we've got another one right there. But that will be good practice. Okay, so the point we want to get rid of is this one down here. And we can't delete the point if it's the end point of a line, so we have to merge the two lines attached to the point that needs to go. So combine those two lines so that we can delete that stray point. These are great practice things. Okay, those two are finished for now. And swap. And that one's going to need to be split. Oh, but, well, I guess. Okay, I'm going to clip that one where it runs into this. Didn't I say I needed to split that? And then this is going to need an S point too. Can you remember it? You have to combine the two lines before you can put in the S point. I think. Maybe not. Modify line combine. But I'm going to combine them. And then come up to Edit, Point, choose the point, and there's that N. Choose the dots, switch to S, say OK, and then apply, and that's just so much prettier. Then say OK and the box goes away. Modify, delete line. Not that one. Cancel. That, no. Okay. So I want to save all of those pieces. I'm going to save as this one because it's not the same sleeve anymore. File, save as, and I'm going to jacket 3 to match the rest of them. Oh, 3 for 3 inches. I remember now. Okay. So we're going to make a new model. File, add pieces. I don't want it in Louise jacket. I'm going to make it Louise jacket plus 3. As long as you can keep track of it, you can save them the way you want to, but make sure that you take pictures and leave them on your C drive so that I can check your homework. Select the pieces. So we want our map and our 2 new fronts and our added pieces and our sleeve that matches. And that's what's in there now. So the old pieces are a basic jacket that we can go back to and do new things and make it longer. And these have style lines added to them. So I can do one more thing. I've made this facing 2 inches wide, so I need a facing to match back here, but I think I'll do that when I do the collar. So we'll pick it up there.